I am told we have a quorum. The meeting is now called to order. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Cole. I'm your moderator. Can everyone hear me well? Thank you. Suzanne Fisher, our town clerk, will read the return of the warrant.
Good evening and welcome. The annual town meeting of the warrant of the town of Eastham. We're meeting tonight at 7 p.m. on May 1st, 2017. The polls for the next election will be Tuesday, May 16th at 7 p.m. and may close at 8 p.m. Voting takes place at the Eastham Town Hall downstairs. The annual town meeting warrant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Barnstable County, to the Constable of the Town of Eastham in the County of Barnstable. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to meet at the Nauset Regional High School Gymnasium Monday, the first day of May, 2017 at 7 p.m. in the evening. Then and there to act on the following articles in this warrant and to meet in the Eastham Town Hall at 7 p.m. on the 16th day of May next. Then and there to elect the following town officers: moderator, Board of Selectmen, town clerk, elementary school committee, housing authority, and library trustee. There will be 3 questions on the ballot, and they have been in the paper and they are on the website. You are directed to serve this warrant by posting attested copies at the post offices in Eastham and North Eastham 14 days at least before the date of holding said meeting. Thereof fail not and make due return of this warrant and your doing thereon to the town clerk at the time and place of holding said meeting. Given under our hand and seals this 14th day of April in the year of our Lord 2017. Signed by the Board of Selectmen. And greetings, in pursuant of the conditions of the foregoing warrant, I have posted copies, 1 in each post office in Eastham and North Eastham, 14 days before time of said meeting. Signed by the Constable, Robert Schnitzer. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. We have a real treat this evening for our Pledge of Allegiance. This past February 1st, Eastham Elementary School Principal Bill Crosby and a contingent of his teachers traveled to the State House to participate in a commendation ceremony led by the Secretary of Education and the Lieutenant Governor. The event recognized the high academic achievement of only 51 schools statewide and only 1 other from the Cape. You could see on the screen, I hope, the commendation certificate from the state and the congratulations certificate from Representative Sarah Peak. Bill has asked me to convey his and his faculty's appreciation for the town's continued support for the elementary school and commitment to its students. Now, to lead us in the pledge are student representatives from each grade level and some of the teachers who are also Eastham residents and Principal Crosby. Will everyone who is able please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing when we're done. Thank you, Principal Crosby, and congratulations to you, the faculty, and of course, the students. Well, we have a double treat this evening. As they did last year, the Honors Chorus at the Nauset Regional High School, under the direction of Tom Farris, will sing our national anthem. Whenever you're ready.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, give proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
You may be seated, thank you. Talk about a hard act to follow. But thank you to the high school and to the elementary school for a really inspiring start to our evening. Okay, we're ready to begin the business part of our meeting. If you haven't already, please silence your cell phones and any other similar technology, and turn off the wireless on your phone or tablet. This will be a big help to the wireless electronic voting system. For your information, the school's wireless system is shut down for this meeting. We have a large screen that will display spoken words into text for the hearing impaired. On my far right is the Board of Selectmen. Will you each please introduce yourselves, starting with Acting Chairman O'Shea.
Bill O'Shea, Vice Chairman and Acting Chairman this evening. As you can see, our Chairman, John Knight, is not here this evening. He's rehabbing down at Pleasant Bay from a second back surgery. I talked to John today, and he wishes us a very productive town meeting, and said he hopes to be back very soon and working with the board again. So keep John in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you.
Linda, just wait 1 second. Are the selectmen able to be heard? Were you able to hear? We're working on it. Let's do better. Linda?
Linda Burt, Clerk of the Board of Selectmen.
Wally Adams.
Elizabeth Gorin.
And on my left is the Finance Committee. Will you each please introduce yourself, starting with Chairman Hackworth.
Mike Hackworth, Chair.
Art Ottorino, Vice Chair.
Peter Wade.
Amy Ekman.
Fred Guidi. John Knox.
Jerry Siriceo.
On my right is our new town administrator, Jackie Beebe. Congratulations, Jackie. I'm sure everyone wishes you the very best in your new position. And nearest to me on my right is our legal counsel, Lauren Goldberg, and on my left, our town clerk, Sue Fisher. And also please notice the volunteer tellers wearing the greenish-colored vests. Will the tellers please stand? Thank you very much for your service tonight. And they're here to help you if you need them. We once again all owe a great deal of thanks to Mike Caleri, responsible for our video, and Chris Blood for the sound system. The gym, as you know, is a very challenging environment. Mike and Chris continue each year to make improvements to the systems, and you can help too. When you come to a microphone, or if you are a selectman or a FinCom member at your desk, please keep the mic close to your mouth and speak up right into the mic. And the voters could help here too. If at any point you're having great difficulty hearing, please signal me so our sound engineer and myself could do whatever is necessary to help you hear. And of course, a thank you to Sue Fisher and her volunteer registrars for the very, very smooth registration process again this evening. Now, I'd like to ask our Fire Chief, Ken Fahrenkopf, to describe briefly the procedures we will follow in the event of an emergency.
Good evening, I'm Ken Fahrenkopf, your fire chief. I'd just like to go over a couple quick safety items with you. In the event that we had to evacuate the gym, excuse me, the entrances are to the rear and to the main entrance that you came into, and we'll probably be able to get this door open quickly. If somebody's having a medical event, please get out in touch with the attention of one of the attendants to give you a hand. I do have 2 paramedic firefighters on duty here along with 2 police officers. We are in direct contact with dispatch at all times, so if we have any events that happen, we can bring in the help that we need. Please exit quietly if something happens, so if we have to give you any directions, that you'll be able to hear them. And if there's somebody that needs assistance on exiting, please help them out of the building. I wish you all a happy and safe town meeting. Thank you.
I'd like to go over some ground rules for the meeting, and other rules are on the last page of your warrant. As we have done in the past, there are 3 microphones. The mic on my left and your right is for those in favor of the motion, and it's labeled the yes mic. For those opposed, please use the mic on my right and your left. It's labeled, quite appropriately, the no mic. To ask a question, please use the mic in the center. And please, if you have a question, just ask it. No long speeches at this mic. Please get to the question quickly. I will remind you of this if necessary. All questions should be directed to me. I will redirect it when appropriate. At any of the mics, you should wait until I recognize you to speak. And with one exception, I will do that only if you are at a microphone. Please, no calling out from your seats. When it's your turn online and you are recognized, please state your name and address before speaking. Any motion to make an amendment must be in writing and brought to the podium. I may make an exception for very simple amendments. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. I will keep time and cannot again speak on a motion until others have an opportunity. This does not apply to certain town officials and committee representatives and to the person moving the main motion under an article. The primary speakers for the motions under the petitioned articles, 34 and 35, and the representative of the Regional School Committee for Article 33 have agreed to limit their statements to 4 minutes. When your speaking time is almost expired, I will ask you to complete your statement quickly. Any voter may move to call the question only after I recognize him or her. If approved by 2/3 of those voting, that ends the debate. This motion is out of order if made by someone who has just made a statement at a microphone, since that deprives others of a chance to respond. In this one instance, while you may make the motion to call the question when it's your turn at the microphone, you may also seek my recognition by standing at your seat and waiting for me to recognize you. Again, no calling out, please. Wait for me to recognize you. As I explained last year, I have obligations to provide a fair opportunity for voters to be heard and discuss the issues, and also to respect your time and avoid lengthy and repetitious debate. I'll do my best to strike a fair balance. So what does this mean? If a motion to call the question is made after there has been a reasonable opportunity for discussion, in my judgment, I will proceed immediately to a vote on the motion to end debate. However, if there has been no discussion or very little discussion, again in my judgment, and if there are persons at the microphone who wish to speak, I may not immediately recognize the moving party or call for a vote on the motion at that time. It's very important you remain seated at all times, except when you're approaching the speaker's microphone or going to the restroom. One last housekeeping item. 4 persons who are not Eastham voters, but who may have information concerning one or more articles, request your permission to speak to those articles. They are Charles Adams, representing Penrose Properties, who may wish to speak on Article 28. Richard Hoffman, who may wish to speak on Article 30 regarding Cape Cod Village. Tom Conrad, our regional school superintendent, may wish to speak on Article 33, and Brendan Hamady may wish to speak on Article 35. If there is no objection, I will recognize them if they come to the microphone to speak. Do I hear any objection? Hearing none, permission is granted. Now, we're going to use electronic voting again this year. As you know, when you registered, you got your handheld device. Take a moment to look at the one-page card you were given at registration, or look up at the screen behind me. There it is. As I did last year, I will give you a heads up when you should get prepared to vote on any motion. When I then announce that the voting period has begun, you will see a green light go on right over here. Then you press 1 for yes, 2 for no. It's that simple. You will have again 30 seconds to vote, and I will announce when the time is up. The voting light will also be turned off. A message that the electronic voting computer received your vote will be sent to your handset. Your device's display will show a message that says "Received" right after you vote. You may get a second message saying either "Yes, received" or "No, received," depending on how you voted. You may not get this second message if you vote near the end of the voting period. You will always get a message "Received." If you do not see the received message after you vote, please go right to the help desk on my right and your left on the side wall. At the help desk, one of our tellers will give you a new device to use for future votes. Again, as a reminder, you may change your vote at any time during the 30-second period, but not after that. If you want to change your vote, just press the button you want, and it will automatically replace your original vote. If you accidentally turn your device off, just press the power button in the lower right-hand corner. If you have any question, ask the teller wearing the vest in your section. If you temporarily leave your seat during the meeting to use the restroom or to go to a microphone to speak, keep your handset with you. It's very important. You may not leave the room without a handset, and you will need it to return. When you leave the building for good, drop the handset in a bin that will be at the exits. A voter must be present to vote, and no one may use another person's handset ever for any reason. This is very important. It's the law, and our tellers will be monitoring this in each section. Finally, there may be strong opinions amongst the voters on one or more of the articles tonight. I'm very confident we will conduct this discussion in a polite, thoughtful, and civil manner. Let's have a good meeting now. We are going to start with one practice motion to make sure your handsets are activated and working and you know how to use them. Let me tell you, it's not so easy coming up with these practice motions. But I also want to tell you that I listened to them, and you'll notice, based on the direction I got last year, I am wearing a tie at town meeting as you requested. So the practice motion to be voted on now is moved that voters who attend town meetings and stay until the end should get a tax credit on their state income tax bill. Please prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. The light is on, the voting period is open. The voting period is now closed. 191 yes, 25 no. The pretend motion carries. Okay, let's get started. I am going to entertain a motion from Selectman Burt for adoption of the first 10 articles in the warrant. The subject matters of the first 10 articles are on the warrant every year, and they pass overwhelmingly, or they are otherwise routine. We did this last year with the first 6, and it was very well received by the voters. I will call out each article separately. If any voter wishes Okay. I have no idea. Moving on, I will call out each article separately after the motion is made, and if any voter wishes to speak to that article, please stand up at your seat. And after I call all the articles in these first 10, I will return to any where discussion is desired and invite you to the appropriate microphone to address your points. If there is any motion to separate an article from the consolidated motion, we will vote on that. Selectman Burt.
Good evening, everyone. I move to approve Articles 1 through 10 as printed in the warrant, in that the sum of $1,700 be raised and appropriated for Article 1, that in Article 4, the PEG Access Cable Receipts Fund is stricken from the bylaw, that the sum of $12,000 be transferred from free cash for Article 7, and that the sum of $16,000 be transferred from free cash to Article 8, and that the sum of $50,000 be transferred from free cash for Article 9, and that the sum of $100,000 be raised and appropriated for Article 10.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion having been made and seconded, I'll now call out each article number. If you wish to discuss that article, please stand and call hold. Article 1, Article 2, Article 3, Article 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Which article? Article 9 is have a hold. Article 10? Okay, Will the person who made a hold on Article 9 go to whichever mic is appropriate for you?
My name is Barbara Smith. I live at 15 Acorn Road in Eastham. I have several questions about Article 9. I'm interested in finding out if the other post-employment benefits, if that refers to retirement health care benefits, and also if there's an unfunded liability that the $50,000 is being used for, and trying to understand what Eastham's liability is in particular for those unfunded post-retirement benefits.
Would the selectman or our town administrator like to respond?
So yes, this is the beginning of addressing the other post-employment benefit issue that we have. So the town of Eastham currently is reported to be, our debt is over $20 million. If we do nothing, that's what we'll owe in 20 years or 30 years. So we're trying to start a plan to set aside some money annually to address this difference between what we're paying now and what we may have to pay later. So yes, we don't have a formal plan as yet. The Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen are dedicated to looking at that next year, but we're starting to set aside money each year. This is, I believe, the third year that we have appropriated money for this, and the town has recently, last year, joined the Pequot Trust, so a trust that is helping us to manage the assets that we put into it.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Do you have another question?
Yes, I'm just trying to understand, is there literally a $20 million responsibility that the township has?
Yes, there literally is a responsibility on an actuarial table that tells us that we will owe that amount of money or more, and that's not unusual. All towns in the Commonwealth are facing this issue, but you know, the truth is we don't have to pay it today. We're not obligated to pay it today. We're just trying to do some future planning so that our children and your children won't be obligated to pay a huge debt.
Okay, so we'll see more on this in the future, is what
You will
you're saying.
definitely see more each year, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else at the microphones, please prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. The light is on, the voting period is open. The voting period is now closed. Yes, 264, no, 11. The motion is approved. Article 11, Selectman Gorin.
I move to fix the salary and compensation of all elected officials of the town as provided by Section 108, Chapter 41 of the General Laws, as amended, and further to raise and appropriate $83,713 for the various positions as printed in the warrant. And I might add that...
Wait, let me get a second. Is
Oh,
there a
excuse
second?
Second.
Selectman Gorin.
I just want to add that I was chosen to read this one because I'm the only elected official that will not have a conflict of interest when you, on these salaries.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. Please prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. The light's on, the voting period is open. The light is off, the voting period is closed. Wow, this is coming quick this year. 249 yes, 22 no. The motion is approved. Article 12, Selectman Burt.
I move to set the operating budget at $27,040,843 as printed in the warrant, and to meet this expenditure, to raise and appropriate and use estimated receipts totaling $26,550,873, and transfer from the ambulance receipts reserved account $372,570 to $100,000 to line 29 fire salaries and $272,570 to line 31 fire capital, and then transfer from septic loan betterment account $20,400 to line 66 septic betterment loan, and transfer from windmill receipts reserved account $2,000 to line 62 beach and recreation expense, and transfer from the government media access account $90,000 to line 12 data processing salary, and transfer from the waterways improvement account $5,000 to line 18 natural resources salary, and further transfer from free cash dog receipts an additional $2,500 to line 60 library expense. Somebody going to second it?
Is there a second?
Second.
Selectman Burt, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would. The operating budget includes all municipal departments and 3 school departments. The overall budget is up only 3.9%. It is balanced and does not require an override. Some areas show slight increases while other line items have decreased. Some examples: sanitation is up 10.8% due to water system operations and additional inspections during startup that will be offset by revenue. Employee health benefits up 7.3%. Some funds were added to the wastewater planning and pilot program. Portable restroom rental and maintenance costs has increased in the beach and recreation department. An overall school reduction of 1.8%. And the fire salary line increases due to the reinstating of the former deputy chief position. The operating budget, as presented, maintains and also enhances, where needed, all town services that we are used to here in Eastham. The Board of Selectmen voted 4-0 in support of this article. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Mr. Ryder, I'm going to go through the lines first and then see if we have any holds, and then open for any general questions, not on a specific line. So I'm going to read the different categories in the budget. I'll go through each section. The budget's on page 12 and 13 of the warrant. I will ask you if any voter wishes to discuss any line item in that section or ask a question about the line item. You may rise at your seat to tell me this. If there's a yes or a hold on any line items, I will return to each of them in order and ask the person who placed the hold to come to the microphone and address that item. And then after then, I will open discussion on the floor for that line item. General government, lines 1 to 25. Public safety and inspectional services, lines 26 to 38. Educational services, lines 39 to 42. Public works and sanitation, lines 43 to 49. Did I hear a hold on that one? I did, okay. Health and Human Services, lines 50 to 58. Culture and Recreation, lines 59 to 62. Debt and Banking Services, lines 63 to 74. Other expenses, general government, line 75 to 79. Okay, I'd like to return to line 43 to, section 43 to 49 and recognize Mr. Gazowski. And which line are you speaking to?
Stephen, I'm speaking to line 49.
Please stand closer to the mic, we can't hear you.
I'm speaking to line 49.
Go ahead. Do you have a question?
The question? In the summary, it shows that, for example, sanitation is up 10.8%. It shows that sanitation is up 10.8%. And when I perform the calculation of $187,000, 661 increase divided by the 600,000 originally in the budget, I get a 12.155%. What is the explanation for the difference?
Jackie?
Line 49 includes our expenses for the coming year for wastewater programs. So that would include additional study for wastewater and for alternative septic issues that are being dealt with our 208 study committee. I can't explain the difference in that percentage, but we did increase the wastewater line at the last minute, so perhaps that is not reflected in the printed warrant.
Okay, thank you.
Did you also have a question on debt and banking services?
Yes, I have a question on 69, 70, and 71. What are the three municipal waters? Why is it broken out into three separate categories like that?
Mike, I don't think people were able to hear that. I'm sorry.
Lines 69, 70, and 71 show municipal water. What are the three differences in those municipal waters? Why are they broken out separately?
Technically, we could combine them, but the way the state revolving loan program works, it gives us borrowing capacity for each, what they call packet of funds. So those represent three distinct bonds that we have borrowed for the water system, and they happened at three different times, and so we account for them separately.
All those bonds to be retired at different times, or they all have the same length of service for us?
They'll all have different lengths, although I think 2 out of the 3 we borrowed in the same year, so would have the same.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ryder, do you have a general question on the budget?
Yes, sir, I do. Thank you. Richard Ryder, Silver Spring Beach Road, my 24th continual annual meeting, town meeting that I have not missed one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Concerning the ISO rating for the town, for the fire salary line within public safety has increased to reflect an additional deputy chief position that will assist the chief with inspectional duties and combination with additional emphasis on training, and this is the key, ensure compliance with progress towards a reduced ISO rating for the town. Some of us who live quite a ways away from the main water mains right now, our taxes have already gone up, but we're in phase 5, which is, well, I don't know, 6, 7 years down the road. We're expected to pay an additional amount of money in taxes, but we're not going to see any ISO rating adjustment until everybody, I think, the way I understand it, everybody in town has the same rating. This, to me, seems patently
Do you have
unfair.
a question, Mr. Ryder?
Yes. When will the ISO rating apply to everybody in town, and why will we have to wait?
Would you like to address that, Jackie?
Sure. We just recently completed the ISO ratings process, and we should know sometime in June what our new rating will be. There's no doubt that it will go down. We don't know exactly how far down, but we're shooting for a pretty good reduction, and that will apply for the entire town of Eastham, not just residents who are close to fire hydrants.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gazowski, do you have another question?
Yes, Stephen, a general question. What is the amount of the revenue that we will receive that will offset the $868,295 budgeted for the operation of our water system this year? And who calculated that estimate of revenue?
That line item is combined with other items that the DPW has. So it is not, we're not calculating, we're calculating $150,000 for the water system. And we did pro formas with revenue, and it looks like we will more than cover that cost in fees this year for the water system.
And again, the final question. In each of the prior 5 town meetings, the increase of the total budget was calculated by taking the difference between the original budget and the selectmen's budget and dividing it by the original budget. And that produces a 5.3% increase and not the 3.9% increase. And I cannot rectify what the difference is, how it's being caused.
Does anyone wish to address this?
So you're saying the overall budget increase is
5.3%, which is
5.3%.
$1,376,168 divided by the 25,664, 675, and that's how each of your increases have been calculated each and every year that I've attended a meeting. It comes to 5.3. I don't
Okay.
understand it.
The numbers speak for themselves. I don't know what else to say.
It's just a change that's happened now and has not appeared
Okay.
in any of the prior years. Thank you.
Seeing no one else at the microphones, we will now vote. Please prepare to vote, and remember 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. The light is on, and the voting period is now open. The light is off, the voting period is closed. Yes, 245, no, 31. The motion is approved. Article 13, again, Selectman Burt.
I move to appropriate $931,000 to meet this appropriation, to raise and appropriate $150,000 and transfer from free cash $635,000 and transfer from the ambulance reserved account $146,000 for the purposes of acquiring the items and undertaking the improvements as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. Large items and buildings and grounds improvements totaling $931,000 make up the fiscal year 18 capital plan. Below the listed items, you will see the key that reflects what the funding sources are. A 4/5 vote is needed to pass this article due to the addition of a power load stretcher for the fire line that was not previously in the 5-year capital. This is an automatic lift stretcher that is now required for employee safety. A second stretcher will be purchased with a matching fund grant.
I'm going to take this article as a whole. Are there any comments or questions from the floor on any line item in the capital plan? If so, when you come to the mic, please identify by number the line item on which you wish to speak. Seeing no one at the mic, we will now vote. As Selectman Burt noted, a 4/5 majority is needed to approve this motion. Please prepare to vote, 1 for yes, 2 for no. You have 30 seconds after the light is on. The voting period is open. The voting period is now closed. Yes, 256, no, 21, 4/5 has been achieved. The motion is approved. Article 14, Selectman Adams.
I move in accordance with the requirements of the Town of Eastham Home Rule Charter, Section 6-6A, to accept the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 19 through fiscal year 23 as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Would anyone like to speak to this motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
We do this every year. All the departments get together and figure out things in the future that we may need so that it's not a surprise to us. So it's ongoing. Every year we do this. Hopefully everybody approves this so we know.
Seeing no other comments, we're prepared to vote. A yes vote would accept the 5-year plan. It would not appropriate at this time any of the funding in that plan. That's left to future town meetings to determine. A no vote would not approve the plan. Prepare to vote, and remember, 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds after the light goes on. You may now vote. The voting period is now closed. Yes, 269, no 11. The motion is approved. Article 15, Selectman Gorin.
I move that the town vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $150,000 to be apportioned as followed to the May 2016 annual town meeting, Article 12. $45,000 to the fire station salaries, $20,000 to data processing expense account, $35,000 to selectmen administrative salaries account, $26,000 to municipal buildings expense, $14,000 to collections expense, and $10,000 to the consulting and engineering account, and further to transfer $2,100 from the library salaries to the library expense account.
Second.
Does anyone wish to speak to this motion? Okay, we're going to do this one by voice vote. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All oppose? The ayes have it by majority vote. The motion is approved. Article 16, Selectman O'Shea.
I move Article 16 as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Would anyone care to speak to this motion?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes,
this is a $320,000 increase for the current year for the salary increase negotiated with union and non-union employees. So this covers all the raises negotiated, and it's for this year. And it's a requirement that we do every year. It was a three-year contract, and we need to vote on the first year.
Anyone else wish to make a comment on this article? We'll proceed to a vote now. Please prepare to vote, 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds after the light goes on. Light is on, voting's open. Voting is closed. Yes, 251, no, 27. The motion is approved. Article 17, Selectman Adams.
I move Article 17 is printed in the warrant.
Second.
Would anyone wish to speak to this motion? Okay, let's do a voice vote on this one also. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, the motion is approved. Article 18, again, Selectman Adams.
I move to transfer from free cash $11,453.40 to pay an unpaid bill from FY 2016.
Second.
Would anyone care to speak to this motion?
Yes, Mr. Moderator.
Selectman Adams.
This is due to, I believe, the landfill, the solar system had gone down, and we weren't receiving any funds from that, any credits. So the power company decided to, which they have the right to, charge us, and it came late.
Mr. Ryder.
Mr. Ryder, you're telling me that the landfill solar panels did not work?
I believe that's true.
Who is responsible for that?
I refer to.
We were promised all kinds of good things. What happened?
Actually, if I may,
Oh,
Mr.
please.
Moderator, the landfill solar panels are fine. It was the meter that broke. And so we were calculating credits without calculating expense, and the bill came at the beginning of the next fiscal year, so it wasn't able to be paid. Once the meter was fixed, it took us a while to calculate the debits and the credits, and the result was the bill that we're paying now.
Mr. Moderator, one more question.
Yes, sir.
Who is responsible for looking after the meter? Is that the electrical inspector?
That's the electric company. It's their meter, just as our water meters would be our responsibility.
So the Fox is in charge of the meters. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's to their benefit not to report a malfunctioning meter. We need to take we need to keep an eye on this better than we have, to assume that everything's going to work well. Thank you.
I think your point's been taken. The question before the voters is whether to pay this bill that came in late. It needs a 4/5 majority for approval. Please prepare to vote, 1 for yes, 2 for no, and you have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. Voting period is open. Yes, 205, no, 74. Ooh, wait a second now. Motion fails. Is my arithmetic right? Article 19, Selectman O'Shea.
I move to appropriate the sum of $700,000 to be combined with other monies appropriated in Article 7, Annual Town Meeting, May 2nd, 2016, Article 6, Annual Town Meeting, May 5th, 2014, and Article 19, Annual Town Meeting, May 4th, 2015, for costs associated with the demolition and site restoration of the Tri-Town Septic Treatment Plant located in Orleans as required under an intermunicipal agreement among the towns of Orleans, Eastham, and Brewster, including costs incidental and related thereto, and to meet said appropriations, the treasurer, with the approval of the Board of Selectmen, is hereby authorized to borrow $700,000 and to issue bonds and notes therefore pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7 or 8, or any other enabling authority, provided, however, that any borrowing authorized hereunder shall be contingent on the passage of a Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion vote. Any premiums received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the General Laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such cause by a like amount.
Second.
Selectman O'Shea, do you wish to speak to this?
Yes, just quickly. This is the last payment for the demolition of the Tri-Town Septic Treatment Facility in Orleans that we entered into an agreement for this in 1985, and we've dissolved this facility, and this is our share of the cost that we're obligated to pay for the demolition and restoration of the property. The monies that were appropriated previously were $100,000 in 2014 for capital maintenance, $30,000 in 2015 for demolition design and engineering, and $70,000 in 2016. And this will be the final amount that we'll be obligated to pay. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments from the floor? Mr. Guzowski.
Yes, Steve, what is our, I know $700,000 is the amount. What percentage of the total amount does that represent? There's other two towns involved.
Yes, each town, there's 3 towns involved, and it's shared equally, so it's $700,000 each town. There are some, we did get some credits back for some sale of equipment, et cetera, that the 2 towns, Brewster and Eastham, helped reduce the amount we had to pay.
Does anyone else from the floor wish to comment? Seeing no one at the microphone, we'll be prepared to vote. A 2/3 majority is needed to approve this motion. Please prepare to vote. Remember, 1 for yes, 2 for no, and you have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. The voting period is open. Voting period is closed. Yes, 259, no, 18. Motion is approved. Article 20, Selectman Burt.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, Mr. Ryder.
Would it be appropriate to revisit Article 18? I had no intention of not paying a bill that we owed.
You are welcome to make a motion to reconsider, but I can't just call the article again.
I make a
It's
motion.
within the hour. The rules say that within the hour after the vote was closed, the motion for reconsideration is appropriate.
Nobody knows, but I did vote to pay for the bill. But I make a motion that we revisit Article 18 to make sure that we
Is there a second?
Yes, I second the motion.
Okay, let's go to a vote on the motion to reconsider.
Mayor,
All in favor of reconsidering the motion under Article 18 regarding that unpaid bill, please, let's do this electronically. Prepare to vote when the light goes on.
Mr.
Yes,
Moderator.
yes, sir.
may I speak to this?
Of course.
Thank you.
Please.
We do have a legal obligation. We're obligated to pay this bill. So the town is, as Mr. Wyder so astutely pointed out, we have a legal obligation to pay this bill.
At the same time, in its wisdom, the state legislature has required us to have this article approved by town meeting. Go figure. But
Mr.
your point's
Moderator.
well taken.
I just
Jackie?
want the audience to understand. the
I
town to
appreciate that,
understand
and I
we have an
apologize for
obligation.
not looking over to recognize.
And I appreciate Mr. Ryder's motion. We did go through approximately 4 months back and forth with CVEC. We looked at all the bills, we looked at the other meters, and we agreed that we owe this amount of money. So it is a true debt that the town needs to pay.
Okay, so what we're going to vote on now is whether or not to reconsider 18. We're not voting on 18 again yet. We're voting whether to reconsider it. This will require a majority vote to be approved. Please prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. The light is on, voting's open. Voting period is now closed. Yes, 180, no, 100. The motion is reconsidered. We will now vote on the motion under Article 18. The motion made by Selectman Adams was to transfer from free cash $11,453.40 to pay an unpaid bill from fiscal year 2016. Do you ask a question? Please.
I'm Brian Libby. I'm from 30 Split Railroad in Eastham. Can you explain to the crowd what would be the legal cost implications if we don't authorize paying this bill that we owe? Because I want people to understand if they vote no, it's likely that we're going to incur additional legal fees.
Would someone like to address that? Bear with us. Jackie?
Our counsel has advised me that this is a utility and it has a right to be paid and we must pay it. So yes, it's really tying our hands if town meeting doesn't approve this. And I understand we try very hard not to have unpaid bills before you. I can't remember the last time we have, but this is important to pay. We do receive roughly $70,000 in credits from these solar panels each year. So it does save the town money to have them, but this is an expense that's a real expense. We have looked at it. Both the town accountant and the assistant town accountant have looked at it. I've looked at it. We owe this money, and please, I would encourage you to vote for it.
I'd like to take this vote by an electronic vote again. Prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. The light is on. Voting is closed. Yes, 265, no, 14. The motion is approved. That is a 4/5 majority and greater.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Article 20, Selectman Burt.
I move Article 20 as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second? Are there any comments or questions?
It's just a gift of land to the town, approximately 4 acres, that these people would like to give to the town because it's within Nature Conservancy, Town of Eastham, and in the Boat Meadow area.
Ms. Buffington.
Yes, thank you. Joanna Buffington, Samoset Road in Eastham. I'm supporting this, of course, but I want to point out a little bit misleading description. I'm on the Open Space Committee, and this didn't come through our committee for good reason. It is completely undevelopable land. It's 4 acres in the middle of salt marsh, so it's still worth, of course, conserving. But from the Open Space Committee perspective, our task is looking for land that could otherwise be developed to protect as valuable open space. So this, to be held for conservation and open space purposes, it's, again, 4 acres that could not be developed even if it wasn't acquired by the town. So thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Okay, we're going to proceed to a voice vote. A yes vote would permit the town to accept the gift of land described in the warrant. A no vote would not permit the town to accept the gift. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Signify by saying no. The ayes have it. The motion is approved. Article 21, Selectman Adams.
I move to amend the Eastham zoning bylaws, Section 4, floodplain zoning, Article 3, use regulations, by adding the new language as printed in the warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Mr. Gzowski, you have a question?
I do. A substantial improvement in the special flood hazard area. Would that include adding replacing the roof and changing the windows? Would that be considered a substantial improvement?
Does someone wish to address that question?
I would call on the building inspector, Mr. Moderator.
I don't
Oh,
hear
zoning?
this. I am not hearing, forgive me. Paul, would you like to address it? Why don't you address it right there? Okay.
Thank you, Paul Legg, Town Planner. The calculation for a substantial improvement is relative to the amount of the value of the home, so it's different for every scenario. So it's calculated based on the assessed value of the property.
Are there any other comments or questions from the floor?
Since this is applied to new federal regulations and the new zoning maps, which I've studied, how many homes in Eastham would this apply to?
Mr. Ladd, would you like to respond?
What's the difference?
I cannot give you an exact number, approximately 200 to 300, thereabouts.
Thank you.
And if I meet that percentage of cost versus assessed value of the home, would I then be required to put in 4 breakaway walls, 6 by 6 in my basement area? If I meet the percentage of cost of putting the roof and windows in versus the assessed value, will that then require me, under the new zoning laws, to get a permit, would I have to put in 4 breakaway walls, 6 by 6 in my basement, to accommodate my 580 square feet?
Mr. Ladd.
Unfortunately, I can't speak to that specific of a question. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from the floor? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. A two-thirds majority vote will be needed. A yes vote would amend the zoning bylaws to allow Eastham to participate in FEMA's community rating system, and no vote would not amend the bylaws. As I said, a two-thirds majority vote is needed. Please prepare to vote and remember 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. You may vote. Voting period is closed. Yes, 230. No, 38. The motion carries. Is approved. Article 22, Selectman Adams.
I move to amend the Eastham zoning bylaw, site plan approval, special permit, section 13, subsection C, section 13, subsection F, and residential section 14, subsection B, is printed in the warrant.
Second.
Does anyone wish to speak to this motion? We'll proceed to a vote. A two-thirds majority vote is needed to approve this article. A yes vote would amend the bylaws to reduce the number of hard copies needed to be submitted. A no vote would not amend the bylaws. Please prepare to vote and remember 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. You may vote. The voting period is ended. Yes, 267. No, 6. It has exceeded two-thirds. The motion is approved. Article 23, Selectman Adams.
I move to amend the Eastham zoning bylaws, section 5, use district 1, and section 5, uses mixed use special permit, and section 5, uses table of principal use is printed in the warrant.
Second.
Selectman Adams, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, please. The intent of Article 23 is to simplify the format of the bylaws section and reduce the ambiguity of the language so that the bylaw can be utilized and interpreted in a fair and consistent manner. The proposed amendment seeks to accomplish the following. 1, clarify the intent of the North Eastham Overlay District, which is to encourage appropriate mixed-use developments that correspond to the use allowed in the underlying zoning districts. 2, clarify and explain the types of development options permitted under overlay district bylaw. Excuse me. My granddaughter decided to share a cold with me. Reformat the table of principal use in the overlay bylaw to clarify which uses are permitted, which are allowed by special permit, and which uses are prohibited.
Are there any comments or questions from the floor? Seeing none, we will now vote. A two-thirds majority vote is needed to approve this article. Please prepare to vote. 1 for yes, 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the green light goes on. You may now vote. Voting period is closed. Yes votes are 249, the no votes are 26. That exceeds the two-thirds majority required. The motion is approved. Article 24, Selectman Gorin.
I move Article 24 as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Does anyone wish to speak to Article 24? Selectman Gorin.
This annual article seeks to set aside community preservation revenue, 10% of that, to open space, historic resources, affordable housing, and active recreation.
Are there any questions or comments from the floor? Okay, let's move to a vote. Please prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes and 2 for no. 30 seconds to vote after the green light goes on. You may now vote. Voting period is closed. Yes, 259, no 14. The motion is approved. Article 25, Selectman Gorin.
I move Article 25 as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Do you wish to speak to the motion? No. Does anyone on the floor wish to speak to the motion? Okay, we'll do a voice vote on this. Signify approval by saying aye. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The motion is approved. Article 26, also Selectman Gorin.
I move Article 26 as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Does anyone wish to speak to this motion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is approved. Article 27, Selectman O'Shea.
I move to authorize expanding the allowable use of the balance of previously allocated community preservation funds in the amount of $359,016 to the Affordable Housing Trust to be used to fund additional affordable housing program options in addition to the rental subsidy program, or to take any other actions relative thereto.
Second.
Selectman Shea, do you wish to speak to the motion?
This is, the current program was to acquire and rehab facilities for affordable housing, and the cost of acquisition and rehab is too great. So this will, although we'll keep that program, will expand this use of these funds to include such things as a housing preservation program, homeowner lease and own program, and homeowner closing cost assistance, in addition to the current program.
Does anyone wish to speak to this from the floor? Question from Mr. Kozowski.
The funds from those 7 units to fund the other programs in this article?
I didn't hear the question.
We have 7 units. If we should sell any of those 7 units, can we use the proceeds to fund some of these other programs?
I don't believe we have any intentions of selling any of the existing units. Paul, would you like to speak to that?
Do you wish to speak?
Thank you. The Affordable Housing Trust, part of this, what this article does is create the ability for the Affordable Housing Trust to implement a number of programs, and one of the programs would be a lease-to-own program, so that in the event that one of the 7 properties owned by the trust, there was a situation where the tenant would like to purchase, that program would provide that opportunity. So yes, that is one of the possibilities if this is appropriated.
Thank you for clarifying that, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Seeing no one else at the mic, we'll proceed to a vote. A yes vote would authorize the Affordable Housing Trust to use previously allocated community preservation funds for additional affordable housing purposes. And a no vote would not authorize the use of these funds for additional purposes. Please prepare to vote. Remember, 1 for yes and 2 for no. And you have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. You may vote. The voting period is closed. Yes, 248, no, 33. The motion is approved. Article 28, Selectman O'Shea.
I move to transfer $166,000 from the Community Preservation Affordable Housing Reserve and $134,000 from the Community Preservation Undesignated Fund Balance for a total of $300,000 to Penrose Properties, LLC, for the purpose as printed in the warrant. The purpose printed in the warrant is for the Purcell property development of 65 units. These, oh, I'm sorry, what would you say?
I just want to know when your
Second.
motion ended.
Second.
Okay, so the motion ended for the purposes of printed in
Yes.
the warrant. And I'm gathering you would like to speak to
Yes,
the motion.
sorry.
I'm a quick study on
That'll
this.
carry it away there.
Selectman O'Shea.
Yes, the $300,000 is for the Purcell project for the 65 affordable units, and the Board of Selectmen will grant the funds and as appropriated by the CPA funding, and one of the caveats we can put in there is that the developer do everything possible to ensure 70% local preference for the first round of rental units. So it can't be dictated, it has to be applied for by the state, but the developer and the town will work very hard to make sure that Eastham residents have a 70% preference for these units for the first round that they're available.
Are there any questions or comments from the floor? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. A yes vote would authorize the transfer of a total of $300,000 from the Community Preservation Affordable Housing Reserve and undesignated fund balance to Penrose Properties in order to offset development and construction costs for the so-called Campbell Purcell property under conditions set by the Board of Selectmen. A no vote would not authorize that transfer to Penrose. Please prepare to vote. Remember, 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. You may vote. Voting period is closed. Yes, 240, no, 40. The motion is approved. Article 29, Selectman Adams.
I move to transfer $11,500 from the Community Preservation Active Recreation Reserve to the Cape Cod Children's Place for purposes as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Do you wish to speak to the motion? No. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. A yes vote would approve the grant to the Cape Cod Children's Place from the Community Preservation Active Recreation Reserve to offset construction costs of a new playground. A no vote would not authorize that grant. Please prepare to vote. Remember, 1 for yes and 2 for no, and you'll have 30 seconds after the light goes on. You may vote. Voting period is closed. Yes, 272, no, 13. The motion is approved. Article 30, Selectman Burt.
I move to transfer $100,000 from the Community Preservation Undesignated Fund Balance to Cape Cod Village Incorporation for purposes as printed in the warrant, or take any other action relative thereto.
I second it.
Does anyone wish to speak to this motion?
Yes.
Ms. Burt.
This facility will be located in Orleans and is a regional project that will house 15 autistic adults from the Lower Cape that need daily care.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this motion from the floor? We'll proceed to a vote. Please prepare to vote and remember, 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. You may now vote. The voting period is closed. Yes, 259, no, 20. The motion is approved. Article 31, Selectman Gorin.
I move that Article 31 be indefinitely postponed.
Second.
Did I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak to this motion? We'll proceed to a vote. Let's do it by voice. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The motion is approved. Article 32, Selectman O'Shea.
I move Article 32 as printed in the warrant.
Second.
Does anyone wish to speak to this motion?
Yes, this is a very small portion of Cole Road that the vote has kind of drifted into, so this will allow us to complete some reconstruction on that pathway without going over to the other side, which has a marsh.
Does anyone else wish to speak to this motion? A yes vote would allow the town to accept an easement on private property on Cole Road so that the roadway may be reconstructed within the existing roadway footprint. A no vote would not allow the town to accept the easement. Please prepare to vote. Remember, 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds after the light goes on. You may vote. Voting period is closed. Yes, 265, no, 12. The motion is approved. You know, this may be obvious to everyone, but I'm getting the vote totals here in the instant that the light goes off. I don't even have time to look down at the screen. That's how fast the totals are coming, so thank you to our supplier here. Article 33, I will recognize Sarah Blackwell for the Regional School Committee. You're standing at the question mark, but presumably you're in favor of the motion, so
You want
go
me to
right
move over
ahead.
there?
Go right ahead.
I didn't think it mattered.
It'll work.
I move that the town vote to approve $1,300,000 borrowing authorized by the Nauset Regional School District for the purpose of paying costs of a feasibility study for the Nauset Regional High School, 100 Cable Road, North Eastham, Mass. 02651, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto, the study, and for which the district may be eligible for a school construction grant from the Massachusetts Building Authority. Said amount to be expended at the direction of the school committee. The MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need as determined by the MSBA, and any study cost the district incurs in excess of any grant approved by and received from the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the district and its members' municipalities. Any grant that the district may receive from the MSBA for the study shall be set forth in the feasibility study agreement that may be executed between the district and the MSBA. And further, this vote shall be subject to and contingent upon affirmative vote of the town to exempt its allocable share of the amounts required for the payment of interest and principal on said borrowing from limitations on taxes imposed by Mass General Law 59, Section 21C.
Is there a second? Did I hear a second? Thank you. Ms. Blackwell, do you wish to speak to the motion?
This is for the feasibility study on this 45-year-old building. The report was done, the Habib report was done in 2012. This is, our portion is not $1,300,000. Eastham's portion is $170,900. I don't know what else. Does anyone have any questions?
Are there any questions or comments from the floor? Seeing none, we'll proceed to a vote. Your warrant says a 2/3 vote is required. That's an error. Only a majority vote is required for approval here. Please prepare to vote, and remember to press 1 for yes and 2 for no, and you have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. You may vote. The voting period is closed. Yes, 261, no, 21. The motion is approved. Article 34, I will recognize Diane Ashley, the lead petitioner for Article 34.
I move that the town direct the town's government to communicate with Governor Baker to employ all means available to ensure spent nuclear fuel generated by Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station is placed in secure dry casks as specified in Article 34 of the warrant.
Is there a second? Ms. Ashley, do you wish to speak on the motion?
Yes. I live at 55 Garden Lane. This petition addresses the worst threats to the public safety to the people of Eastham posed by the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station. Even though the plant is scheduled to close in 2019, there are critical issues which must be addressed immediately. Foremost, the spent fuel generated by the Pilgrim Station must be placed in secure dry casks. The Boraflex panels, which prevent fire, will deteriorate to an unacceptable level by September 2017. They must be replaced so time is of the essence. We ask you, the town authorities, to communicate with Governor Baker as soon as possible, address these deep concerns. Senator Markey, during this town meeting in Orleans quite recently, called the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Plant the worst station in the United States. It's a grave threat to our lives, health, and safety. Our beautiful oceans, bays, beaches, marshes, ponds, rivers, houses, shops, historic and new buildings could be contaminated and ruined by a human accident, an act of weather. The fuel pools are on top of the nuclear station, open to the sky. Dan Wolf, our former governor, has flown a plane over them, or a terrorist or cyber attack on the Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station. Please act now.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Okay, we'll proceed to a vote. I'm sorry, I apologize, Dave. Mr. Schrofer.
Thank you, sir. I know this is a non-binding resolution, but it is critical that there be a mass of people, those most exposed, and that means if you're east of that plant. We're very comfortable, years and years and years of that plant operating under restrictions, all kinds of requirements to bring things up to code, which they failed to do, and yet we're here safely. Nothing has gone wrong, but it could, and it's devastating, and there's no going back. Every square inch of Cape Cod would be contaminated. When this happened at Chernobyl, I asked a question of a client of mine, since you're downwind of this, what happened to the cows that produce the milk that makes the cheese that they were selling? And they said, we had to keep all the cows in barns and couldn't use their milk because of the contamination 1,000 miles away. That's what this is like. And if we don't at least support the other towns and the other states that are trying to do something about the worst plant, rated not only by our United States government, but the division that's responsible for evaluating it says it's the worst, and yet they approved it to continue to 2019. So I very much encourage everyone to make a 100% unanimous vote that they close the plant as fast as that can be done. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to this motion? Let's proceed to a vote. Please prepare to vote, and remember, press 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. You may vote. Voting period is closed. Yes, 267, no 15. The motion is approved. Article 35. Article 35, I will recognize L. Michael Hager, the lead petitioner for this article. Mr. Hager.
Mike Hager, 115 Shady Lane. I move that the town request the Eastham Board of Selectmen to authorize town officials to refrain from using town funds and other resources to enforce federal immigration laws unless presented with a criminal warrant or other evidence of probable cause as specified in Article 35 of the warrant. And further, that the town requests the selectmen to protect the civil liberties and human rights of all Eastham residents and visitors as specified in Article 35.
Is there a second? Mr. Hager, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Because Article 35 has become so clouded with misinformation, I want to clarify the key issues. First, the new enforcement rules make any any undocumented immigrant subject to arrest, detention, and deportation, regardless of arrival circumstances, time in the country, criminal record, or family particulars. This means that our neighbors with pending applications for permanent residence are most at risk, since they are the low-hanging fruit for the ICE.
Mr. Hager, look into the mic and look this way. You'll be heard better. Thank you.
Are such folks really risks to our national security or public safety? Even immigrants with citizenship or green cards are subject to harassment as enforcement agents intensify their search for the undocumented. Second, Article 35 says that town officials are authorized to refrain from enforcing ICE requests to detain or inform on suspected undocumented immigrants. This aligns with Eastham's ongoing policy of community policing, which relies on the trust of town residents and visitors. In authorizing Eastham officers to resist ICE pressures to cooperate voluntarily, Article 35 simply confirms current town practice. Third, the article does not restrict ICE agents from enforcing immigration law, nor does it give asylum to those who commit serious crime. Town police will continue to honor judicial warrants against suspected criminals. Fourth, why should Eastham officials decline to cooperate with ICE? Because the cooperation now promoted but not required under Section 287G of the immigration law would erode the trust that encourages immigrants to report crimes, to come forward as witnesses, and to make 9/11 emergency calls. And it would impose uncompensated costs on our town budget. ICE targets are not only criminal immigrants who lack documents, but also tax-paying immigrants with families, years, or even decades of U.S. residence, decent jobs or businesses, and no criminal record. Neither national security nor public safety, the two stated grounds for the new rules, is served by their arrest and deportation. Fifth, Article 35 will not invite federal retaliation. Citing Supreme Court opinions, a federal court judge last month ruled that the government could not cut off funds to localities that are deemed, quote, sanctuary cities. As a non-binding resolution that merely confirms current practice, our modest proposal is nevertheless of huge importance, for it reflects our community values of civil liberties and human rights for all, and our patriotic resistance to harsh enforcement. This evening, the question for each of us is, do we want Eastham to be complicit with the cruel policies that separate families, take away workers, destroy entrepreneurship, discourage tourism, and reduce tax revenues? Or do we prefer to stand up for our historic values of justice, decency, and human rights? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator.
I'm going to recognize Selectman Gorin, who wants to explain her vote, and then I'm going to recognize the police chief, who wanted to say a few words, and then I'm going to make sure that everybody at the microphones get a chance to speak. So everyone will have their opportunity, I promise. Selectman Gorin.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I wish, actually, as he has said, to explain my vote. I speak as the one affirmative vote by this Board of Selectmen to recommend this petition article to the citizens of Eastham. I believe that this article asks the question, who are we as a community? Are we people who promote fear and harassment and wish to deny human rights to our neighbors, residents, and visitors? Or are we people who value freedom justice, equality for all Eastham residents and visitors, and want all people to lead lives of peace and dignity, free of fear, harassment, and violence. The following words are no less relevant today than they were when they were written 130 years ago on the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of our teeming shore, send these homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. We must remember and protect and preserve these words of welcome and freedom in our daily actions. Please vote yes, and join me in standing for an Eastham we can be proud of. An Eastham that embraces the values of freedom, peace, justice, and civil liberties and safety for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now recognize our police chief. Chief?
Good evening, Ed Kilhaywick, Police Chief. I wanted to say a few words because I know this is very controversial. In terms of my position, I'm not taking a position, but what I am telling you is what the Eastham Police stands for, what our philosophy is in terms of how we police in this town, and most of you know that. We are very impartial. We go out there with a non-discriminatory basis in terms of how we do our business each and every day. We do not enforce immigration laws. That is not what our mission is, and it will not be our mission. With respect to an ICE agent who calls us for assistance, we will assess each request, and based on what that request is and whether there's an arrest to be made based on probable cause or a warrant, we will then make a decision as to whether we will get involved in something. But we are not in the business of enforcing the immigration laws. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ekman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Amy Ekman, 855 Nauset Road. As you can all see in the warrant, the Finance Committee, which I'm a member of, voted unanimously in support of this article. I'm up here speaking for myself, not as a voice for the entire board. First of all, I believe we have a fantastic police department and officers who care deeply about this town and its people. The passage of this article would do nothing to change that fact. Neither would the failure of it, but the passage would do nothing. This article simply states that local funds are not to be used to enforce federal laws or directives to federal agencies such as Homeland Security. Some fear that the federal government will retaliate and withhold federal funds that come to Eastham. This is a completely false statement. It has already been proven in court as something the federal government is not allowed to do. So let's give all members of our community the sense of security that they deserve and vote yes.
Thank you. Ms. Rousseau.
Nancy Russo, 75 Oldfield Lane, here in Eastham. And I think Mrs. Lazarus, when she wrote her poem about the huddled masses, was really speaking about those who came legally through Ellis Island during those days. What I do feel that's very important for all of us to remember is that the Constitution is the law of the land, and I believe that we cannot pick and choose what we choose to enforce and not enforce, or to be a part of, and not make our own laws to suit ourselves. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, at the yes mic.
Jill Stewart, 150 Glacier Hills Road. And in regard to what the lady just said, I want to say all of us who brought this article are in favor of the Constitution too, and this does not go against anything in our Constitution. It only goes against a temporary executive order that's being challenged right now. The previous speaker for our side has spoken well about the immigration part of this article. So I would like to speak to the second part of this article because I see this as a much larger issue. I see the immigrants as the tip of the iceberg. Immigrants are being made into the other, scapegoated, and used as pieces in a strategy of blame for a kind of American version of the Game of Thrones. In some ways, this is not about immigration. It's about whether we believe in civil rights and the democratic process. We have all been otherized at one time or another, and we know how that feels. We know what that does to our inner life. My story is that I realized rather later in life, after having been in a traditional marriage in a very traditional Midwest town, that I in fact was gay. This was in the old days when gay people had no civil rights. I went from being the first college grad in my family on the right track to being some other, even though I was the same person. I learned what it was like to put yourself in the closet, the way immigrants operate in the shadows. That has a tremendous cost. When gay people finally decided to take the risks of coming out to claim their real lives, they risked losing their jobs, their housing, and their kids. But even worse than that was that just as we were starting to get people to see us for our real selves, instead of the stereotypes they had been led to believe and imagine, politics entered the picture. Politics didn't see us as real people. They saw an opportunity. They stirred up fear and anger, homophobia, and used us as a wedge issue to bring their base to the polls to vote on anti-gay issues, knowing that they would be the benefactor of those voters. So when I see this anti-immigration fervor being stirred up, I realize and recognize the power play. It is the immigrants this time, but it can and will be any of our most vulnerable unless we stand up and speak our own truths.
You'll need to wrap up shortly.
Democracy is not a top-down institution, and laws are not supposed to be orders from one to the many. We are supposed to use our laws to protect the way our good local police use community policing now. But they and we are being pressured to blow past constitutionality.
Your time is up now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hamady,
the federal government has
please state your name and address, please.
You need to say my name. Brennan Hamady, 2115 Nauset Road.
Thank you.
The federal government has the inherent power to regulate immigration. The law established by the federal government recognizes that those who do not have the proper documentation to stay in the country are deportable. This is through the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1952, a convergence of all past immigration laws. In order to comply with federal law, if any individual is recognized as a legal alien, they must be reported to, say, ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We must not establish Eastham as a sanctuary town due to the conflict with the United States Constitution. Due to the fact that the federal government has the power to regulate immigration, the power to regulate immigration is not reserved to the states or local governments through the 10th Amendment. This means that refusing to respect the 1952 Immigration and Nationality Act violates Article 6 of the Constitution. And Article 6 states that this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in the pursuance thereof, shall be the supreme law of the land. This means that when the federal government has the power to make a law, and the states and the local government does not, it is unconstitutional for the state and local governments to defy those laws. In order to uphold the law and the Constitution, we must vote against Eastham becoming a sanctuary town, unless, of course, we no longer respect our laws.
Thank you. Ms. Ford.
I'm Patricia Ford from 10 Gull Lane. And first of all, I wanted to say that before I left the house this evening, a newscaster was interviewing the governor about this very issue and asking him about the state of Massachusetts, and he was saying that he would like to see it up to the individual towns. So to me, it's very important. It seems kind of that we can't do much, this little Cape Cod town in Massachusetts, but I think they are looking, the people are looking at what we're doing in these towns, and I'd urge everybody to vote their conscience on this. And secondly, the way I look at it is when I first moved here for my first few years in Eastham, and I had this rusted out, highly identifiable truck, and I was working many jobs and driving home late at night, the Eastham police officers, the one that is in the graveyard across from Arnold's there, if I was going 2 or 3 miles over the speed limit, would do nothing. If I were going 5, 7, 8, 9 miles over the speed limit, that officer would turn their lights on and off. He recognized me, of course, and was just saying, slow down, you know. And of course, if I was going 30, 35 miles over the speed limit, I would fully expect to be turned over and arrested. And it's that type of discretion that I think, technically, I was breaking the law. When I was going, technically I break the law probably more often than I don't in the morning when I'm driving on Route 6. And, but the resources of the town are not reaching out to me and grabbing me. And this is what I would like to see in this, that the town, if it's a criminal, if it's a serious issue, of course we want someone in our community to be taken out. But if it's just, I would like to send the message that our community this is a kind thing to do, and it's a way to, some of our neighbors will sleep better tonight if we pass this. And finally, I'd like to say very quickly that I am the grandchild of an Irish immigrant who was a stowaway, which was the equivalent of an illegal. He was neither legal nor illegal, because anybody that came before 1920s, I think that we had pretty much open borders. It was not an issue. So they did not come here legally. They just came. Nobody was expecting him. And he had more children than he could afford and lived a life ending up in federal custody.
Please finish the thought.
And his children and grandchildren have added immeasurable to this country.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Lisa Radke, 415 Meeting House Road. A bet was made tonight that I couldn't go through town meeting without saying anything, so I guess I lost. What it comes down to is they use the term undocumented. It's illegal. They are illegal. There is an avenue for these people to go to become legal immigrants, to be here legally. If my checkbook runs short tomorrow and I walk down to Cape Cod 5 into their safe and walk out with another $1,000 so I can pay my bill, is that going to be overlooked? It's illegal. Illegal is illegal no matter which way you look at it. The chief of police can look the other way all he wants. Being a retired police officer, I find that appalling. But to vote this, if these people want to be here legally, there are avenues for them to take to do that. And I would just urge you to vote no.
Thank you. Mr. Schrofer.
Dave Schrofer, 311 South Sunken Meadow Road. I am in favor of this in support of our police chief. I was on the Board of Selectmen at the time that he was selected as our police chief. He is an extremely qualified person, and I would view this resolution, if it were in favor, would be something he would have in his hip pocket, so to speak, if the feds asked him to do something, and in his judgment, in his sole judgment, he decided that is not something we can do for whatever reason he developed those. I trust his judgment, his knowledge, his training, more than I would trust someone who doesn't even know our town or our people. So I would support that, and it would give him the right to say, not only is this my judgment, But I have a resolution passed at town meeting by hopefully a substantial yes vote that says this is a proper course for me to take. So in support of our chief, I recommend passage of this bill. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Mr. Hager, do you have something new you want to add?
Yes, Mr. Moderator, it's Mike Hager, 115 Shady Lane. To respond to the gentleman who cited the Constitution and federal law, let me emphasize again, there is no violation of federal law in what we're proposing in this warrant, in this article. The person who raised the issue of illegals, let me first point out that the penalty for coming across a border illegally to the United States is a misdemeanor. Most misdemeanors result in 1 or 2 years of jail sentence. Overstaying a visa for people who have been vetted and come here, and those are about half of the immigrants in the United States, that is not a crime. That is a civil infraction. In fact, if we want to talk about illegals, I wonder who in this room is not an illegal from time to time if we go over the speed limit or if we make a turn that violates a local ordinance.
Yes, ma'am.
Stephanie Fields, 125 Oakwood Road. About 5 years ago or so, my husband and I were coming home from the 4th of July parade in Wellfleet. It was probably, I don't know, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We had been to a cookout after the parade. We were in our classic car, and we were coming home to Eastham, down Route 6. We were about across from the Mainstay Motor Inn. And a car accident happened right in front of us. Somebody did not see the person taking the left, stopped coming from Eastham, never put their brakes on, rear-ended that car. That car then, because its wheels were turned, pre-turned to take its left, came directly towards us. Luckily, my husband was able to get us off to the side, so the car that was hit just sort of came down, scraped our driver's side. We were in a convertible. It was very scary. And it turns out that the person driving was illegal. The car was not registered. The tags were expired. The vehicle that it hit was totaled. Our classic car was totaled. There was a mother and child in the car that this driver hit. Luckily, they were okay, but minor injuries, but it was very, very scary. That car sat out behind Nickerson Service Center and was never claimed by anyone because it was illegal. The whole shooting match was illegal. So just food for thought. My husband and I ended up with a totaled car that nobody, we held, that was just how it was. Nobody was held responsible for that. It just fell on us. There was nobody to go after. There was nothing to do. There was nothing to be done. And we were driving home on the 4th of July. Kind of ironic. Food for thought.
Thank you. I'll entertain a question, Mr. Kozowski.
Will the 3 Board of Selectmen who voted no for this resolution continue to use the power and authority we vested in them to enforce the federal immigration laws?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking under this article right now. Selectman O'Shea, do you want to comment on this?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Yeah,
The 3 of you voted no for this resolution. I didn't ask you to express your reasons why. You've said so in prior meetings, your Board of Select meetings. Will, no matter what, if this passes or doesn't pass, will you folks still continue to support the federal immigration laws?
We support the federal
Immigration laws.
We have nothing to do with federal regulation. The reason I voted no is because we have nothing to do with federal immigration laws.
Will you change your instructions?
Let's not have a
selectmen for the
debate.
town of Eastham. We're not federal officers or congressmen. That's why I voted no, because I don't think it has anything to do with the business of Eastham.
So you won't change any instructions to the chief?
Let me point out this is a non-binding resolution. I'll take one more question and then I'll go back to the other mic. Yes, sir.
Robert Cook, 390 Candlewood Drive, and I move we call the question.
We're going to, I recognize that motion. Is there a second? I hear a second, but someone say it, please. Thank you. This will need a 2/3 vote. Please prepare to vote when the green light goes on. A yes vote will end debate.
Mr. Moderator, it says majority.
No, to
No,
call
we're,
the question.
what is
Call the question.
We are
Sorry.
not voting on Article 35. There is a motion to call the question that needs a 2/3 vote to be approved. If it is approved, debate will end and we'll go immediately to the vote on Article 35. If it fails, the debate will continue. So now we're going to vote not on Article 35. We're going to vote on whether or not to end debate. That will need a 2/3 vote to end the debate. Be prepared to vote. A yes vote will end the debate, or will be a vote to try to end the debate. A no vote would keep the debate going. Please prepare to vote when the light goes on. You may vote. 1 for yes, 2 for no. The voting period is over. The motion to call the question has been approved by 246 to 17. Debate is ended. We will now proceed to a vote on Article 35. Please prepare to vote and remember 1 for yes and 2 for no. You have 30 seconds to vote after the light goes on. The light is on, you may vote. The voting period is over. The motion passes by a vote of 168 to 97. Selectman O'Shea.
I move that the town vote to accept the published reports.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it, the motion passes. Selectman O'Shea.
I move that the 2017 annual town meeting be dissolved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. The town meeting is dissolved. Thank you, everyone.